Hello, welcome back to Press Review, MidEast in Depth. As the West reconsiders its vision that the Muslim Brotherhood is the democratic force needed in the Arab Spring, the UK seems to be investigating for its own security. Let's see what the media is saying. The Ahram Online looks at British Prime Minister David Cameron, who ordered an investigation into the Muslim Brotherhood over concerns that the group is planning radical activities in Britain, his Downing Street office revealed on Tuesday. Downing Street confirmed a report in the Times newspaper that said he had asked intelligence agencies to gather information on the philosophy and activities of the Brotherhood and its potential threat to the UK. The government acted following reports that Brotherhood leaders had met in London last year to decide their response to the Egypt crisis, triggered when one of its leading members, Mohammed Morsi, was unseated as president, according to the Times. A Downing Street spokeswoman said the Prime Minister has commissioned an internal government review into the philosophy and activities of the Brotherhood and the government's policy towards the organisation. The review is being led by Britain's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, John Jenkins, who said it remains too early to judge whether Britain will follow in the footsteps of Egypt and Saudi Arabia, who have both designated the Brotherhood a terrorist organisation. According to The Guardian, British officials say the move is possible but unlikely. And moving to London, where The Guardian newspaper states that David Cameron's decision to order an investigation into the philosophy and activities of the Muslim Brotherhood, particularly as they relate to Britain, stems from a broader nervousness in Western European capitals about a wave of Islamist extremism and jihadism fed by the chaos in and around Syria. However, Downing Street's decision also looks suspiciously like a response to specific political developments in Egypt, where the Brotherhood was founded in 1928, and to external pressure from close British allies. The US and Saudi Arabia were never comfortable with the Brotherhood's ascent to power in the person of Mohammed Morsi, who became Egypt's first democratically elected president in 2012. Simon Tisdale criticizes the US administration, saying, when Morsi was overthrown by a military coup in July last year, the Obama administration, while bleating about the importance of democracy and the Arab Spring, made no great objection. The writer adds Obama's pro-democracy rhetoric notwithstanding, his administration has publicly supported the notion that the Sisi regime in Egypt is leading back to democracy long after it became obvious that the opposite was occurring, the Washington Post commented this week. Tisdale considers the crackdown on the Brotherhood has been enthusiastically backed by Saudi Arabia, another influential British ally and Egypt's other big paymaster after the US. It is Saudi Arabia, according to the latest reports, which complained that Brotherhood leaders who fled Egypt after the coup have made London their new base. The extent to which this may be true and whether it is significant is part of the inquiry launched by the Prime Minister. And joining us over the phone today is political commentator William Spring. Thank you very much for joining us at short notice.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Spring, do you agree with Simon Tisdale from The Guardian? He believes the Prime Minister's decision to order an investigation into the activities of the Muslim Brotherhood stemming from a broader nervousness in Western European capitals about a wave of Islamist extremism and jihadism fed by the chaos in and around Syria.
Well, I haven't read Simon Tisdale's article, so in one sense I can't comment on it. Mm-hmm. But the basic principle of the Prime Minister ordering an investigation into what was until the army took over in Cairo, the legitimate government of Egypt, and the Muslim Brotherhood was the government of Egypt. And suddenly, because Sisi has taken over, they become, in Cameron's perverted eyes, absolutely terrorists. You know, I just don't agree with it at all. I think there's basic freedoms of association in this country. Mm-hmm. I run a trade union, and I would be outraged if, they tried to say, look, you're running some sort of seditious organisation. The whole of the British policy, in virtually every area that I can see, foreign policy, has been to make a mistake.
Yes.
Who is telling Cameron to ban the Muslim Brotherhood in Britain? I don't know anyone other than maybe the Egyptian government.
Or
But,
maybe he is under pressure apparently from Saudi Arabia and his
Yes.
other allies in the GCC.
Yes, well, the Saudis need to be put under pressure. I mean, the disgraceful way the King Abdullah has treated his daughters in Riyadh suggests to me that it's the Saudis who should be ostracized, not the Muslim Brotherhood. We've got much bigger fish to fry than the Muslim Brotherhood. I think the main enemies of peace in the Middle East is the Saudi regime with its policy of bombing virtually every country they have any contact with, whether it be Lebanon or Syria or out down in Mali and Nigeria.
The Muslim Brotherhood did activities that were associated with terrorism. So is that not legitimate to investigate?
Who did activities associated with terrorism?
We're talking about the ones in Egypt. We're talking
The
about
Muslim Brotherhood.
the
Well,
Muslim
I can
Brotherhood.
understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally actually oppose the Muslim Brotherhood. You
Right.
see, I don't agree with them in virtually any particular. But what I do believe is they should be treated with respect because they did win a free and democratic election. I don't think Morsi played his cards right after the election. He, instead of being a reconciler, by redrafting the constitution in the way he did, he endangered and threatened many minorities in Egypt, which make Egypt such a wonderful place.
Yes.
It was a pluralist and tolerant system in Egypt, as in Syria. And jihadists and all these sort of people, Salafists, are causing trouble there. But at the same time, Morsi won a legitimate and democratic election. So he should be respected and his followers should not be pursued in this ridiculous manner, either in Egypt or in England in particular. Because even if Sisi or the government or regime in Egypt now thinks these people are a real threat, let them sort that out. That's their business. It's nothing to do with us. These are a legitimate party and they should be able to come to England for exile and know that they're not going to be investigated and harassed in England as they are in Egypt.
Maybe because, Mr. Spring, they're actually an organization more than a party. They are a well-established organization, but not particularly a political party. They started actually as a charity. Now, my second question, Mr. Spring, can we say that the Muslim Brotherhood did actually find refuge in England only after it's been made, they've been made more to feel more than welcome as a driver of democracy in Egypt, especially in 2011 when the whole January revolution started. So what does that tell us about Britain's knowledge and research when they support a group and then totally start to investigate them and harass them, like you just said?
Yeah, well, that's it. It swings and roundabouts, isn't it? The point is, when they were demonizing for whatever purpose, when the Allied countries, the Western countries, were demonizing Mubarak, it seemed then very useful to bring in the Muslim Brotherhood and all other parties who were opposing him. Now they've become an embarrassment. The Saudis and the Americans are telling the British what to do, and they want to dump these people. Well, all I can say is I think there should be, this would be an extremely dangerous precedent in English domestic law if a party which has been tolerated in England, or as you say, not a party but a group, should suddenly find itself, harassed by the British government. I mean, we're all frightened of the British government at the moment. They're tapping everybody's phones. They are engaged in a continuous program of a coercion against legitimate and established political groups in this country. So the Muslim Brotherhood are only getting the same treatment that all the other parties are getting, such as the BNP, UKIP, anybody who actually stands up against the Cameron-Clegg consensus, which is based on fraud and lying, disinformation, are likely to be attacked in some way or other.
Is there a lesson to learn, Mr. Spring, very briefly? We don't want to take much of your valuable time. Very briefly, could you tell us, is there a lesson that Britain could learn now and maybe investigate more before fully supporting a group like the Muslim Brotherhood and then having to stop that and immediately change position?
Well, I think if you don't mind, I think the Egyptians should understand some of the basic problems about democracy. It's not so much particularly the British, but if you consider the reason why the Muslim Brotherhood was, brought down in Egypt was the fear that the Muslim Brotherhood was going to use its power or authority in the wrong way to suppress dissent and minorities. Now, we have seen all this in Europe before. Mm-hmm. You've got to remember that Adolf Hitler, who was the worst dictator Europe has ever had, came to power through an entirely democratic election in Germany. But when you get a party in power that is intolerant of others, then they can establish a police state, even if they are already legitimately elected.
Yes.
So I think that's the big lesson. Similar lesson in Zimbabwe. Mugabe came to power legitimately in 1981, but then he turned the country into a police state.
Yes.
So, we all have to be careful that it's not just the numbers in the ballot box that count.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spring, for your interesting contribution. We do respect all your opinions. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And for more updates, please visit levant.tv. Thanks for watching and bye for now.